Hi everyone, welcome to my car. My name is Margarita Lydova and this is my first ever vlog. I am filming this vlog because I decided to go on a cross-country road trip, and the plot twist is that I'm doing this without taking any days off from work. Dun dun dun. I work in ad tech. My company sells data for targeting. On the side, I run a podcast and I'm starting this. I really love the creative world, so this is an opportunity for me to flex that creative muscle. Anyways, I'm 23 years old and my story is much like many young professionals today. I lived in Manhattan in a beautiful studio. In March, I bought a ticket to visit my parents in Minnesota, which is where I am now, for what I thought would be 2 weeks as the pandemic was kind of picking up, and then I stayed for 2 months and I kind of had a realization that things were not going to get better quickly. So I ended up moving out of New York. I packed up all of my stuff and now I live in my parents' basement. As sexy as it is to say that I live in my parents' basement, for a long time, like living here, I felt like I didn't have control over where I lived, who I saw, how I worked, and I realized it doesn't have to be this way. I've never made a vlog before, so this will either be legendary or it will flop. I'm really looking forward to the trip. I've planned the trip with COVID in mind, meaning that I have a ton of masks, hand sanitizer, gloves, and I'm only going to places where I feel like I can be safe. The world is so big, and now is the time to try something new. I want to come out of this pandemic, if you will, feeling like I've really taken every opportunity that I have in order to learn, in order to grow. Well, I've been sitting in my car for probably 2 hours because this is really hard. I've taken a lot of takes, so I'm gonna get going. It's me again. I'm at my first stop after 6.5 hours of driving. Since COVID, this has been my first time staying in a hotel, and it's not as enjoyable as it used to be. More importantly, when I arrived, the manager told me that their whole hotel is booked up, which is even more concerning, so please pray for me. For the most part, I will be staying in Airbnbs, and that's intentional. I'm experimenting with the idea of being able to travel while working, and if I can make that seamless. Thus, everywhere I'm staying has a full kitchen, a washer and dryer, air conditioning, Wi-Fi, parking on premises, and more importantly, it's a private place, because as a solo female traveler, it was important for me to make sure I wasn't staying with any weirdos. And what I want to mention is the budgeting for this kind of trip. For me, it was very intentional. When I lived in Manhattan, I paid about $2,300 in rent. So when I planned this particular trip, I thought to myself that if I could get a month worth of lodging for that amount, then that would be worth it to me. I will say that I am $600 over my budget. Well, I am completely pooped for the day. So I'm gonna jump off, but I will see you all in Denver. When I got to Denver, I went straight to the Source Hotel to try one of the best restaurants serving modern Israeli food, Savta. The word Savta actually means grandmother in Hebrew. The highlight of my meal was definitely shakshuka. I mean, look at it. After this meal, I was in a total food coma and called it a night. Good morning. It's about 9 a.m. on Sunday and I'm about to head out to Boulder. I'm really excited, but unfortunately my morning started out kind of scary. I came down to my car when some man approached me and said, hey miss, and I was hoping that I wouldn't have to talk to him. And then he was like, hey miss, I'm so glad you came out because I was actually going to leave you a note on your car. I saw someone looking into your car late last night. It's like my first night here. It's just really upsetting. I got really scared. I don't know if he really saw someone look into my car or not, because he started trying to hit on me. Like, he asked if I had a boyfriend, where I was from. In any case, I got a reality check real quick about what it's like to travel as a single woman, but I'm not going to let this stop me from having an awesome day in Boulder. I ate lunch at Dushanbe Tea House, which is a restaurant designed with inspiration from Tajikistan. It was a really beautiful place. Well, I did end up having a great day in Boulder, and after a long day of exploring, I went home to get ready to visit Rocky Mountain National Park. Also, don't film while driving. Rookie mistake.
Oh, there are cracks in the railway line. Oh, where the temple fell, the secrets have gone mad. And the rain will kill us all. We throw ourselves against the wall.
And just like that, my time in Denver came to an end, and I set out to Colorado Springs. Little did I know what came next. Keep watching to see what happened and my key takeaways for Colorado. So you're probably wondering, what did you just watch? And honestly, me too. Last night was my first night in Colorado Springs, and I feel like at this point, it's like a rite of passage for something crazy to happen on my first night anywhere, because the fire alarm went off at 1 a.m. Basically, there were a ton of people, so I put on a mask, I grabbed my car keys and my phone, and I just came down trying to distance myself from everyone. Many people weren't even wearing masks. One guy came out with 2 different shoes because he was in a hurry. The firefighters came, and it was a false alarm, which is great. I'm super thankful, but it still really sucked, and I just realized that this type of travel is definitely not for everyone. Like, those moments are really uncomfortable, and when you're alone around all these strangers in your pajamas and your retainers, it's really unpleasant. So I just had kind of like a wake-up call that what I'm doing isn't easy. I'm still really grateful that I'm doing this, but these little hiccups in the road make it definitely more of a challenge than I expected. Although my trip started off rough, I went to clear my mind at Garden of the Gods, and it was breathtaking. I planned my next hike for the following day and started getting ready given that I'd be setting out to Utah shortly thereafter. On my last day in Colorado Springs, I went to Cheyenne Mountain where I hiked. I didn't know that Colorado had this type of nature. I think the term for this is flora and fauna, so I hope my 6th grade teacher is proud of me for knowing that one. What also surprised me is how quickly the weather changed up in the mountains. It started storming within minutes, which was my cue to leave. I really saw it all while in Colorado. It's been quite a week and a half in Colorado. Up next for me is Utah. As my wrap-up, I promised I would share my key takeaways, and here they are. First, I want to say that there is a lot to see in America, and as an immigrant from Ukraine, I felt like I needed to take this trip. I highly recommend taking a road trip through the US. I've lived in major cities for most of my life, and seeing more rural areas or seeing these new areas, these new states, really opened up my horizons in ways that I couldn't even imagine. With that said, Again, this type of trip is definitely not for everyone. First off, you have to be really comfortable being alone all the time, and you also have to be comfortable with unexpected things happening always. I share the authentic experiences that I had, even if they were unpleasant or if they were scary, but that's just the reality of the gig that I'm doing. However, all of the experiences I've had, all of the sights I've seen, all the footage that I then am able to share with you makes it absolutely worth it. Finally, I want to talk about work. At the beginning of this video, I said that I was doing this trip without taking any time off, and so far that's absolutely true, and I'm super grateful to have a job that allows me to work remotely and travel while I'm working and work on a flexible schedule. I definitely could not do it if my job did not give me this type of privilege. So my takeaway with this is that there are definitely ways to make work work. What I mean is that you can find creative ways to make time in your schedule to travel. In short, I definitely have a greater sense of appreciation for this type of resourcefulness with my time. So that concludes my first video. If you want to keep up with my travel, please subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram at Marge_Simpson. My goal is to empower others to see that this kind of travel and work integration is absolutely possible. And I also want to share what that journey would look like. I'll catch you in Utah.